मैं तो दिल्ली में रहता हूँ और रेडियो फिजी बहुत रेडियो फिजी रोज सुनता हूँ.
रेडियो Fiji 2 देश की धड़कन.
In the news tonight, 2 more test positive for COVID-19. Nationwide curfew to now begin from 8 p.m. And police investigate leak of patient details.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Jackie Smith.
Another 2 people have tested positive for COVID-19 in Suva. Prime Minister Vurengembani Marama has confirmed a couple from Nambour Suva are now in isolation at the Navua Hospital. Based on this development, the Greater Suva area has now been placed under lockdown, and the nationwide curfew has also been expanded to begin at 8 p.m. daily. Edwin Nund reports.
The 21-year-old woman developed symptoms on the 28th of March, while her 33-year-old husband showed signs 2 days ago, both having been in public before being identified.
There is a high risk these patients have infected others, as they not only lived in close contact with other families in the settlement, but served in very public-facing job. Both patients worked as hairdressers.
One worked at Jade Salon at the FNPF Plaza and the other at the Supercuts in Damodar City, Suva. Both are said to have stopped working from the 28th of March, but witness accounts have thrown this into doubt. A family member who had returned from India recently was staying with the 2 patients before leaving for Mombasa. He is believed to be the transmitter of COVID-19 and is in isolation in Mombasa. Because of the risk that these 2 individuals pose to the public, the Greater Suva area will now be a restricted zone for the next 14 days between the Ndela Navesi Bridge on the Queen's Highway, the Sawani Junction and the Nosuri Bridge.
We are not afraid to scale up our enforcement to contain COVID-19. And we can achieve this one of 2 ways: by a willing cooperation or by the heavy-handed action. For every Fijian, this will be much easier if you follow our directives. But if not, we will be forced to crack down with a nationwide 24-hour curfew.
The lockdown in Suva will be strictly enforced, just as it is in Lautoka.
Within the greater Suva confined area, the greater public will not be allowed in or out. Only those traveling for medical purposes will be allowed through checkpoints. All non-essential businesses will be closed.
For the rest of Fiji, starting tomorrow, the nationwide curfew will be in force from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily. This is being done to further restrict unnecessary movement of people.
Edwin Nunn joins us live now. Edwin, can you break down what the Suva lockdown means?
Jackie, I'm currently at the Ndela Navesi police post, which is one of the borders for the restricted zone. Behind me, Walu Bay, leading onto the Suva CBD and thereon into the Greater Suva Nosuri area. From 5 a.m. tomorrow, anyone on the Suva side, which is behind me, cannot pass this checkpoint and move beyond this point into Lami and onwards. And those outside of Suva, meaning those in Lami, Navua and where have you, are not allowed to travel into the Suva area. It's the same for people at the Sawani Junction and at the Nosuri Bridge. So what does this mean for ordinary Fijians? If you are working in Suva, but you live outside the confined area, you have until 10 o'clock tonight to get home. We are saying this because the curfew is still in place from 10 o'clock tonight. No one will be allowed to travel without proper approval once the curfew kicks in. If you think you can make your journey tomorrow, you won't be able to. Suva goes into lockdown. For people who are inside the restricted zone, between this checkpoint, Sawani Junction and Nosuri Bridge, you cannot leave home. The lockdown means you are only allowed to go outside to buy groceries or other essentials or for medical reasons. Only banks, supermarkets and essential services will operate within the confined area. And that is between the Suva Nosuri area, including everything in between, which is Nosuri, Makoi and other parts, as part of the restrictions which have been placed to avoid the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Jackie.
Thanks for that, Edwin. Police Commissioner Brigadier General Sithiven Ngilio is warning the public to not congregate at the border checkpoints. This as the Greater Suva area will be going into lockdown from 5 a.m. tomorrow. Brigadier General Ngilio stressed the lockdown calls for responsibility and unselfishness. He adds with over 300,000 people living within the Suva lockdown area, the Eastern and Southern Division police officers will be involved in the operations.
The protocols at the border checkpoints will be the same as what has been happening in Lautoka for movement of essential services and vehicles through that need to move through those checkpoints, and there will be checkpoints as well established out of those border checkpoints approximately 200 meters away to control the movement in.
Medical teams are carrying out extensive checks in Nandi, Suva and Mombasa now as part of the contact tracing in relation to the two newest cases, patient 6 and patient 7. Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Chemesa Tundravu says the person of interest had traversed to a number of places and taken part in several social gatherings.
And we are following up on all his potential contacts and the areas that he and the family had moved around in Nandi, in Suva, and as well as in Mombasa.
Health Minister Dr. Feremi Wangai-Nambete says with close to 400 people tested for coronavirus, they treat every potential patient as positive until tested otherwise. And Maggie Boyle joins us live now. Maggie, what measures is the Ministry of Health now implementing in response to the two new cases?
Jackie, the Ministry of Health, of course, stepping up their contact tracing in response to the two new cases, patient 6 and 7, of course, and a person of interest in isolation in Mombasa. I have with me here the Minister for Health, Dr. Ephraim Wangai-Nambete, who can further explain the measures that the ministry are taking.
Hello, Maggie. Certainly, today's been a day where, you know, it's become very clear that we've got 2 cases that are now positive in the Greater Suva area. After that information has come through, certainly contact tracing has begun with earnest for these 2 individuals, and obviously identifying those who they have been in contact with, both from a family and personal perspective, but also from an occupational perspective, and that's also happened. The other thing is that they have been moved with their child into the Nabua isolation facility so that they can be managed, they can be treated and go through that process. It is part and parcel of what the Ministry of Health and also with other stakeholders we know we do, and we have somebody who's positive, is making sure that we find all the direct contacts. And it's, you know, if we look at what's happened around the world, certainly what is become very apparent is that those who are positive, their direct contacts then pass on the virus and they get infected and they keep on passing on the virus. So it's a chain and that needs to be broken. So that's why it's so important that we identify those direct contacts, that they are seen, that they are in self-isolation or self-quarantine. And if any of them develop symptoms, that they contact us so we see them. And then we need to make sure that if they are symptomatic, that we test them. And if they are positive, then identify the further contact. So it's like a tree with branches as we go along. But the most important thing that is that that whole process has begun, and you know, that needs to be done to make sure that we get on top of this. So if we look at it, what we have is the first cluster that's based out of Lautoka, the second cluster, the family that's in the Nabu isolation, and now the third cluster, which is these 2 patients, you know, that have been today have tested positive. Unfortunately, the internal mechanisms within the Ministry of Health and the identity of the 2 were leaked in terms of their names, And we've made it very clear, the Honourable Prime Minister and also myself today in the press conference, that this is actually unacceptable, and we are investigating this, with also working with police, because identifying names is something that we don't condone. But certainly we do know the occupation of these two patients that we now have that are positive, so the place where they reside, and that is important public health information, so that we can be able to then begin to identify who the contacts are.
Obviously, with the leak, Doctor, earlier of the information of these patients, their names, where they work, and their residential address concern, given the paramountcy of confidentiality, patient confidentiality particularly, what measures now will the ministry take to ensure that there isn't a breach like that again?
There are measures that are in place. We have mechanisms to ensure that that doesn't happen, and certainly that mechanism and that strategy and that process was broken. So certainly the Permanent Secretary, working with the administrators, they're looking at ways in which we can be able to tighten that up. It's not normal times, so it's important that through our communication channels that we identify those who are sick, identify their contacts, but also what's more important is that that information is not made public knowledge, and certainly those who have made public knowledge who their names are, they basically have put them up themselves, to be judged accordingly, according to a court of law, because certainly that's unacceptable. But anyway, that's something that's happened. We have to put that behind us. It's a distraction. What we have to do is concentrate on the task at hand, and government's decision has been that we need to contain the greater Suva area. It's no different from what's happened in Lautoka. So we need to contain the greater Suva area. We need to minimize social gatherings. We need to be, so there's no social gatherings. We need to, minimize mass gatherings of 20 or less. We also have to ensure that, we have social distancing. And these measures, we know works in countries where there is, challenges with the spread of COVID-19. And we have to just make sure within the greater Suva area that we do this, and we do this very well. Lautoka has done it, and they're going through. They have another few days to go, and it is our turn. No one wishes it, but the ball is in our court, so as to speak, and we need to deal effectively with it.
Just lastly, Doc, as we know that in terms of the contact tracing, these two patients, 6 and 7, both possibly may have worked while they had symptoms of COVID-19, and we know that they worked at Jade Salon in Suva, as well as the Supercuts Barber at Damoda City. What is the advice to anyone that may have come in touch, may have been in touch with them, or may have used these services in the last couple of days?
What we're asking is those who who have symptoms, certainly to contact us on 158, and that process happens. But again, generally within not only Fiji but also in the Suva area, but also in Fiji, is making sure that those who have any symptoms of flu to front up to our fever clinics and get attended to, because those are the mechanisms by which we can be able to ascertain whether somebody has a common flu or whether somebody may have COVID-19. But also as the Minister of Health and Government, we've been working hand in hand, collectively, comprehensively. Once that decision was made today by the Honourable Prime Minister, this afternoon 160 of our staff at the Ministry at CWM Hospital have gone home, that live outside the containment area, and packed their bags and moved back in. And we've identified a place for them to stay for the next 14 days. And that's really the due diligence that we have as a government, to make sure that we look after people. And as I said all along, Maggie, to us lives are priceless, and it is important for us that that we manage and we look after every Fijian and make sure that we face this storm together and get over it.
Together we can. Certainly, if you have been in these areas at the Jade Salon or at Supercuts Barber at Damoda City in the last couple of days, if you have any of the flu-like symptoms, a cough or a runny nose, do get in touch with the fever clinic, your nearest fever clinic, or call 158.
Thanks for that, Maggie. Police are now investigating all possible leads to hunt down those who are responsible for leaking patient details in the latest case of COVID-19 in Fiji. Earlier today, the finer confidential details of the two patients started to circulate. Prime Minister Vurenge Bainimarama says the Ministry of Health staff are devastated that someone is leaking confidential information.
I can tell you that the staff are devastated that someone is leaking confidential information. These leaks have made their jobs far more difficult, and every time people on Facebook share this leaked information, they do so at the expense of the doctors, the nurses, and other medical staff, trying their absolute best to inform the public in an accurate and timely manner. The police are currently investigating this matter. When they find out whoever is responsible, will be taken to task.
Eleanor, as I'd mentioned earlier, what is happening in Mombasa in terms of preparedness?
Now, Jackie, Mombasa has been on preparation mode since the announcement of the first COVID-19 case. However, today, following the announcement by the Prime Minister regarding the 6th and 7th patients, the measures have stepped up a bit. Now, we managed to visit the Mombasa hospital after the announcement, and we saw the health officials sealing off a portion of the front of the hospital with yellow tapes, and we could as well see ambulance on standby at the hospital. Now, we understand that for the past couple of weeks there has been drills conducted at the Mombasa hospital for the processes and procedures to follow in case they receive a positive case at the Mombasa hospital. Now, we've been inundated with questions from members of the public about an isolation unit at the Mombasa hospital. Yes, we do have one, and that is the TB ward inside the Mombasa hospital, and that is where our person of interest is being kept. Now, we've also received a lot of questions regarding our question of interest. Now, we've heard the Minister of Health mention that they can only reveal more details until the test is done. Now, the test will be run this evening, and we can only, until then, until the results are out, and we can only confirm if the test is positive or negative. But as the Minister of Health stated, that they are treating all potential cases as a positive. So I don't need to state what this means for us. Basically, just to sum it up, stay home for everyone here in Mombasa. And Jackie, as a result of the leaked Ministry of Health officials, documents, we've seen a online harassment of the person of interest, not only him, his family, as well as his religion. And this is sad to see that this is coming out from people here in Mombasa, and the leaked documents even stated where he resides, and this is worrying because of fear of victimization. And we also noticed earlier this afternoon an influx of people coming in to do their shopping, as well as heavy traffic in Mombasa this afternoon. And just lastly, Jackie, just reiterating what the Prime Minister stated earlier this afternoon, at this stage anyone can be a carrier. So for people in Mombasa, if you know you have symptoms of flu, either a cough, sore throat or running nose, there are 2 fever clinics that you can go to. One is at the Nutrition Training Center just near the Mombasa Hospital, and the other one is at the Nasir Health Center in town. Jackie.
Employers have come under spotlight for refusing to issue letters to workers wanting to access Fiji National Provident Fund assistance. Minister for Economy Ayaz Said Qayyum says they have received a number of complaints that some employers are not issuing letters to their staff to confirm that they are no longer employed amidst the COVID-19 crisis. Pranita Prakash reports.
The minister says they suspect these employers are not making FNPF contributions.
Unacceptable levels of complaints where some employees are saying that the employers are not giving them their letters to say that, you are no longer have work or we've shut down. And we suspect that those employers are not giving them their letters because they have not been paying the FNPF contribution. So please, I urge all the employers, if you haven't been up to date with the FNPF contributions, still give the letters to your employees because you're denying them the ability to access their own funds.
Syed Qayyum says they have asked FNPF to pursue those employers who have failed in their obligation.
We've had people, some of them have been queuing up for days or pursuing them. It's actually inhumane to do that to your staff just because you want to protect yourself from a statutory compliance that you did not actually adhere to.
In the hospitality and tourism sector who have been laid off, have their hours reduced or their hotels have shut down, are entitled to withdraw $1,000 from their FNPF account. Those in the lockdown areas are entitled to withdraw $500. Pranita Prakash, FBC News.
Up ahead, foreigners urged to register for recovery flights. And garment factories switch to mask production. Details after the break.
Pula natang ko aproslan kerse, go erkraki. Do television navarong na Radio Fiji 1 nandom ibit.
Radio Fiji 1 nandom.
Customers of Housing Authority and the Public Rental Board have payment relief options available to help ease financial burdens caused by COVID-19. Housing Minister Pramila Kumar says the welfare of Fijians needs to be considered as Fiji experiences the financial and economic fallout of the virus. Edwin Nunn reports the relief packages are initially for 3 months.
The relief packages are designed to help families facing financial problems caused by the COVID-19 pandemic.
They would be worried in case their houses are put on mortgagee sale. And that's the last thing we want. We don't want to make people homeless.
Housing Authority options include postponing loan repayments, extending the term of the loan and reducing the repayment amount, extending the term of the contract and interest-only payment. PRB tenants can defer all rental payments for 3 months.
Depending on numbers, say if we get 50% of it, will be not recovering close to $700,000 a month. So 3 months down the line is $2.1 million.
Housing Authority and PRB will also cater for customers who haven't been financially affected as yet, but may face hardships down the line.
This relief package is offered to the people who are under lockdown at the moment in Lautoka. It is also offered to those customers who are affected by COVID-19 directly, like they don't have a job, reduced hours, or few days in a week.
Housing Authority has just over 2,700 loan customers, while more than 1,625 families rent in PRB flats. Anyone applying for relief is advised not to visit either office and make applications online or contact their divisional offices. Edwin Nand, FBC News.
British and European nationals wanting to return to their home countries will need to register their interest through online application on the Fiji Airways website. All international flights by our national carrier have been suspended in light of COVID-19, which has left more than 400 UK and EU nationals stranded in Fiji. Karatavi with the details.
The British High Commission in Fiji is looking at ways to assist its nationals stuck in Fiji.
There are over 400 UK and EU nationals who were visiting Fiji and essentially became blocked as some of the transit routes closed down overseas.
Hopkins says they are working closely with the national airline to schedule a recovery flight.
Fiji Airways at the stage where they have requested for expressions of interest, and we are in touch with all of the citizens who have registered with us.
The French ambassador to Fiji says the 70 nationals wanting to return to France was mainly due to personal reasons.
And some of them would like to stay in Fiji, some would like to go back home. Not only because they fear that the virus is worse in Fiji than it is in mainland France or it is in New Caledonia, but because they have families, they have duties to other people.
Both embassies are working with Fiji Airways in exploring all possible routes. One in particular is through Los Angeles that has one transit. Hopkins is urging all Fijians in the UK to follow the advisory of its government in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Karleni Tavi, FBC News.
At least 5 garment factories in Fiji are now venturing into different fields of production to counter the impact of COVID-19. This as these factories are now producing masks and hand gloves, a far cry from the usual clothing, textile and footwear production. This is being done to try and help its employees to retain their jobs and also help Fiji have a supply of protective gear for the fight against coronavirus. Kritika Kumar reports.
Fabric The shortage of face masks has prompted the Performance Flotation Development Limited to start making their own to help combat the deadly virus.
But there is obviously the opportunity to make masks, and we've actually diversified into making some masks for our own use for a customer in Australia. We've been able to use existing raw material. We've had to invest in some patents, but so that's very little investment.
Taula says in the coming days, lack of raw materials could hinder their newfound production.
But it's impacted at the moment by some of the components that we require for those masks coming out of Asia.
With many factories halting production because exports have stopped, the employees of this factory are grateful they still have their jobs following the diversification in the production line.
We've expanded into making things that we haven't made before at a short time period, and we're learning new things and we're getting to make new things.
The company has expanded its production due to a huge spike in demand for masks in Fiji and overseas. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
While the economic impacts of COVID-19 are evident, with the number of companies having to close shop, for some the global pandemic has made their services even more critical and in demand. Communications and business continuity in the age of self-isolation, physical distancing and working from home has been an unexpected gift for Telecom Fiji, which has resulted in a 40% increase in data traffic and counting. Maggie Boyle with the story.
Being able to communicate beyond a phone call in the COVID-19 era has, for some businesses, led to a boom.
We've seen that there's been approximately 40% increase in data usage, and the consumption is growing daily.
There is also new businesses piling up with the reliability of their connections holding up in the crisis.
We see the increase coming in. I'd say it's probably to the tune of about between 50 and 100 requests for new connections daily.
For Telecom, having the world at your fingertips in a global pandemic has never been more apt. And while business continuity is the main game, access to online streaming platforms for many is making isolation a bit more bearable. Not all about the bottom line, the company signing off on a range of relief packages.
For residential customers, they will double the data on all postpaid broadband plans, including ADSL, VDSL, fiber and 4G.
Telecom nonetheless facing some challenges, with staffing minimized as a virus containment measure. Maggie Boyle, FBC News.
And Whitney joins us now with the latest in business.
Thanks, Jackie. Coming up after the break, COVID-19 affects Nandi handicraft business. And Fiji Airways to operate first freighter service on Sunday. Stay with us.
My name is Neha and I'm from Kadavi, and Mirchi FM, it's hot.
Mirchi FM, it's hot.
The small handicraft sellers in Nandi, who depend mainly on tourists for their daily income, have been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. With travel restrictions in place globally and no guests allowed in the country, some shop owners have no choice but to close their business. Felipe Nycaso reports some of these businesses have not made a single sale in 3 weeks.
This is the current situation at the Nandi Handicraft Center, with only 8 shops open out of the 33.
2 weeks we don't make any sales, and like our business now, it's very quiet for us, and plenty things we have to do, like for our household and our the electricity bills, like our paying for the rent fees, like that, and more things we have to.
While some of these businesses are still open, the owners say they will also have to make the hard decision to close their shops temporarily, and they do not know when the business will return to normal for them.
Because of the coronavirus, all the tourists not coming, all the airplane all stopped, so airport closed, no tourists here, so no sale. Whole day we sit down, go home without any cent.
Living all my life in Nandi, this is the first time to experience no tourists in Nandi town. I come around here to sit with my friends at the handicraft market And when I came this morning, and it's afternoon now, I haven't seen a single tourist. From morning till afternoon, I've been sitting here.
For these handicraft sellers, this is what they've done their entire lives, which has earned them money to put food on the table for their families. But now they will have to look for odd jobs to earn a living. Philip and Ikaso, FBC News.
Fiji Airways will operate its first freighter flight this Sunday between Nandi and Sydney. 41 tons of fresh produce will be taken across to Sydney on this flight. On the return sector, the airline will assist the Ministry of Health by bringing back around 11 tons of medical equipment from Sydney. The equipment donated by UNICEF consists of temperature screening tents, which will be vital in the fight against COVID-19. Fiji Airways Chief Executive Andre Filion says the flight will greatly assist growers, producers and exporters to continue their business, support the economy and support the livelihood of Fijians. Minister for Trade Pramila Kumar is pleased that the international trade is still being facilitated.
We must continue with our exports. Exports are very important for our foreign exchange. So I'm glad that our national airline diversified from the usual what they do the best, which is flying people with limited cargoes, but now they're just doing, they're only transporting cargoes, and they'll be able to pick things from the other end as well. So at least the trade will continue.
We now join Sinifa from HFC Bank with the latest from the world stock market.
The US dollar held on to gains as investors rushed to the security of the world's most liquid currency as the coronavirus pandemic caused massive disruptions to global trade. Markets were also terrified after US President Donald Trump's dire press briefing yesterday as he warned Americans of painful 2 weeks ahead. The blatant evidence of the damage came last week when weekly US initial jobless claims, one of the earliest gauges of economic trends, jumped to 3.28 million. This was higher than the previous record of 695,000 set in 1982. Elsewhere, Australia's benchmark ASX 200 index fell 2.6%, led by falls in bank stocks. This was after New Zealand's central bank ordered a suspension of bank dividends hitting Australia's banks, which own most of New Zealand's big lenders. That's all for now from HFC Bank, Pinaka.
Here today's exchange rates are set this morning. More mixed reactions around the world as COVID-19 continues to affect the market. We gained against the Aussie and the New Zealand dollars, but declined against the Chinese yuan, the US dollar, the PNG kina, the euro, and the Japanese yen. Onto the commodities market, crude oil rose to $21.12 per barrel. The price of gold rose, closing at $1,597 per ounce. However, silver fell to end the day at $14.06 per ounce. That's it from Business Tonight. Jamie joins you now with the latest from sports.
Thanks, Whitney, and good evening in sports after the break. More challenges for our swimmers. And Sports Commission to revise Olympics assistance. This and more coming up.
Bula, I'm Miri, I'm from Lotoka and I love Gold FM because they play all my classic hits.
Gold FM, only the classic hits.
The current restrictions in place in the country due to the COVID-19 pandemic continues to affect athletes preparing for the Olympics. One such sport is swimming, which has 8 swimmers vying for 2 universality spots. Fasonac Chief Executive Lorraine Ma says with no swimming facility accessible at the moment, the swimmers are being encouraged to look at other ways to keep fit in the meantime.
They have a huge challenge because the swimming pool is no longer accessible to them. It's not only them, I think swimming has a group of about 8 athletes who are vying for qualification. And so, our discussions with them will be based on how they can create some kind of training environment that will enable the athletes to keep in some kind of condition. Because obviously they can't swim.
Fiji National Sports Commission will now relook at funding for the men's and women's sevens teams preparing for the Olympics.
Now that the Olympics have been put up, we have 2 teams that have qualified in rugby. So we now have to look at their training and their preparation for another year. That in itself could be funding to about $3 million.
The Wimbledon tennis tournament has been cancelled due to the coronavirus pandemic. That's it from sports. Angie joins you with weather later on, and in new media, Zoom video conferencing app in the spotlight amid COVID-19 outbreak. Details coming up.
Bula, I'm Miri, I'm from Lotoka, and I love Gold FM because they play all my classic hits.
Gold FM, only the classic hits.
In new media tonight, an unprecedented number of people are cooped up in their homes. Many are turning to video conferencing platforms to learn, work and play. No platform is gaining more attention than Zoom. And it's weather time now with Angie.
Tarariki na dola. This greeting is a special one from the soccer town, Ba. Anyways, hope your day so far has been great. Well, not too great since we have our 7 loved ones sick with the virus. It's a humble plea to keep safe and stay hydrated. Now looking to the west, skies were semi-clear, light showers will be in the picture. Eastwards from Peck Harbour to Suva, grey clouds hovering over with showers in the bag. And up north, there is high chance of heavy showers by tonight. At sea, southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, moderate to rough seas. Turning to the tides, low tide at 7:43 p.m. with high tide at 2:02 a.m. Sunrise at 6:13. For tomorrow, the showers are most likely to intrude into our Friday picture. Oh well, at least it's a Friday. Tomorrow's temps, most centres will be quite cool in the high 20s. We're in such time where staying home is a priority even when the weather is tempting. And looking further on to Saturday, the showers are likely to fade away. Now with that, to all the viewers, we shall meet in 2 weeks' time. Till then, stay safe and take care of your loved ones. Jackie, I will miss you, and I definitely know you will too.
Oh, I most definitely will. Take care and stay safe, Angie. Thanks for that. In Fiji on Pulse tonight, we asked, what do you think of the police's stance on arresting people caught loitering?
I definitely think they should be arrested because they are not following directives given by the government. Not only are they placing themselves at risk, but also the lives of others.
I think we should just follow the rules in place, and if people are seen loitering around outside curfew hours, then the police have every right to arrest them.
I think it's a good idea because it keeps us away from this gathering, and as per this virus, I guess it spreads more faster when gathering is happening.
I think it's a good idea, and it keeps us all safe and away from this deadly virus.
It's about time they do it, because they have been giving out numerous warnings, and yet people are still not adhering to it. A great decision by government to control the movement of people, and the police officers have been doing a great job in checkpoints during curfew hours in light of the COVID-19 outbreak.
Now, in the world of the weird and the wonderful, a jewelry company in Russia is making headlines for designing the controversial coronavirus pendants. Recapping the main stories for tonight, 2 more test positive for COVID-19. Nationwide curfew to now begin from 8 p.m. tomorrow, and police investigate leak of patient details. Now for these stories and others, tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM. Our poll question this week, we're asking, should business houses make social distancing compulsory for its customers? Visit our FBC website to answer. And on to our shot of the day. While the global pandemic continues to ravish economies, some businesses continued as normal with the arrival of this cargo of vehicles into the capital city. And this shot was sent in by Makareta Turkawa. And now with COVID-19 affecting the world, if you are in any area, particularly Lautoka, send us newsworthy pictures and videos of what you were up to during the lockdown. On email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, our Facebook page at FBC News, our Twitter page at FBC_news, or use the hashtag FBC News. And before we go, remember that we are amidst a global pandemic. Please ensure to follow all advice from authorities and also only follow the official announcements and updates. If you're out shopping, please be considerate. That's your news for tonight and my last delivery to you all for now. I will be seeing you all again in 2 weeks. Till then, stay safe, wash your hands, take care of yourselves and your loved ones. God bless.
Bola, I'm Miri, I'm from Lautoka and I love Gold FM because they play all my classic hits.
Gold FM, only the classic hits.